Hello everyone. We're here with my fourth period class today, and we're going to be looking at the more difficult problems on Algebra 1 skill S13, writing linear functions and word problems. Once you get past 60 in the SmartScore, you'll notice that these problems start to change a bit. Someone go ahead and unmute yourself and read this problem for us, starting with Colette. Thank you, anonymous student. All right, so what are some of the important items here that we need to write down, and what do they represent? What's the initial value? What's the rate of change? What's the total? What's our variable we're going to use? Go ahead and write your answers in the chat. You can pick any of those questions I said to answer. Pick a number and tell me what it represents. Hey Siri, put 1 minute on the timer.
Okay, your timer is set for 1 minute.
Please enter your answers in the chat. So 162 is the starting or initial value, 2 is the rate of change, 358 is the one we want to focus on. Colette already owns 162 hairbands. 162, that means that's the constant. 162 is the starting value, and 2 is the rate of change. All right, so this word already, you're right, that tells us that 162 is the initial value, or the constant, as you said, meaning that's the one that doesn't go with the variable, right? So already owns 162 hairbands. That's what we're starting with. And then you were telling me that this is the rate of change, right? Because that's how much is going up by. 2 for $1. This one doesn't say per or every or each, but 2 for $1 means that each one is going to be 2, right? So that's our rate of change. And we are adding this on because of this word, additional, right? Additional. So adding 2 hairbands, right? Sorry, $2 per hairband. And then someone said, someone wrote D to represent this. Does it matter what variable we use here to represent the hairbands? It doesn't tell you what variable to use, so you can use whatever you want. Sure, you can use D, you can use X, you can use V. Use whatever variable you like, because we're actually not going to be entering an equation here. We're going to be entering an answer. And then what does all of this equal to? Yes, that's right, the total. So the total is right here, 358. So notice in this case, before you had 2 variables and 2 numbers. When you have 2 variables, you can't figure out what they are. But when you only have 1 variable, well, now we can solve this equation. There's many different ways that you can do this, but we need to figure out what goes here that would make this equation true. One way to do that is by isolating the variable. So we can go ahead and do a 2-step equation because there's 2 things happening here, right? We can go ahead and we can subtract 162 from both sides to try and get d by itself. And what do we have left? What does 2d equal to? I bet some of you are already ahead of me. If you take 355 and you subtract 162, what do you have? Write your answer in the chat, or you can say it out loud.
$196.
Thank you, Max. Oh, anonymous student. And then we're going to divide both by 2, because 2 times d equals 196. So if we divide this by 2, you can go ahead and write it down here, but you should get 98. Why is it still using that? Oh, because it's right here. Let's go ahead and make sure everyone understands where that 98 came from. Dividing by 2 on both sides, and we get 98. Someone asked me that in the chat. All right, so for each of these questions, you're going to have 3 numbers that you can use and just 1 variable so that you can find that variable.